Welcome into the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. I'm Kay Donaldson, the director of the Alabama Bass Trail and the host for this week's podcast. This week, next week, the week after that, the 50 weeks after that. Originally I thought when we started the podcast, eventually we would get our own podcast host. And I guess we have in a way. I personally did not expect to be the host of the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. I don't see myself as a public figure, and so it gets it's just weird to me that I'm hosting the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. I really kind of thought eventually Robbie Floyd would take that over, and then Robbie went on to be with the Sportfish Championship folks, so he's not even with us now. And Luke does his own podcast, so that wouldn't really fit in for him to do another fishing podcast. So unfortunately, you're stuck with me. So I hate that for all of you who were hoping we would have this really great, energetic podcast host, but you're stuck with me. So sorry about that. This is your post Kay Donaldson vacation podcast, post Neely Henry podcast, and pre Alabama River podcast. So I do want to thank everybody for really giving me the time to take off work. I took 6 days, went down to Cancun, Mexico, and just had a great time of relaxation. Got a little suntan finally going on, and a little earlier than I would normally go on vacation, but with everything going on with the tournament trail and then also being in the legislative season, we've been very active in Montgomery this year, actually heading back down there tomorrow for some legislative things going on. And just a lot going on, and I was able to squeeze 6 days in between tournaments and everything going on in Montgomery. Actually missed an event on April the 15th in Montgomery. Angela Cross stood in for me there for the North Alabama Legislative Luncheon on the grounds of the Capitol. So there's just so much going on, and until you work in this office and understand all of the things that we touch and have something to do with, it's really hard to understand it. But I did have 6 days in Cancun, Mexico, and really only had a couple of phone calls. So typically my phone rings off the hook 24/7, 365 days a year. So it was nice to only have a couple of phone calls. And bless Spencer Graves, when he called me, the Vibe team or the entertainment team had just kicked up at the resort, and he got to hear a lot of that. So, but it was on a personal note. No big deal. I wasn't upset about that, but I only had a couple phone calls. So it's nice to get away. Nice to experience other cultures. And when you go to a place like that, you don't just have Hispanic or even Americans. There are people from all nationalities. And it was really a fun experience. We love Cancun. It's one of our favorite places to go to. It's absolutely gorgeous. The service is fantastic. The food and drinks are good. So it was good. I came back 2.5 pounds heavier than I was when I went down there. So this week is really buckling down on getting back on track with eating and all the things. So I do appreciate everyone letting me have that time. And huge shout out to John Simpson, Daniel Montgomery, and Angela Cross for filling in the gaps while I was gone. I really appreciate that. Good to have those people in place. I want to talk a little bit about Neely Henry, as we're going to talk to the winners of that tournament, Todd Beaty and Ethan Mcdonald. And I may be saying his name wrong. I think I've pronounced it Beatty and Beatty. So we'll get the correct pronunciation from him. And then moving forward, I'll announce it during Blast Off correctly, and I'll announce it on any further podcast correctly. But these guys took home the win. 1940 was the winning weight. But let's talk about Neely Henry by the numbers, because this lake is the lake that the study was done on, that started the slot limit discussion, that started the fire that surrounded the Coosa slot limit. I am going to beg your pardon for me to get a little swig of my Celsius. They are not sponsors yet. I hope they come on as a sponsor. Again, I am drinking the Wild Berry Sparkling Celsius. It is my favorite. I have had the other citrus, but this one so far is my favorite. Not gonna lie, 6 days coming back from vacation, the long travel day, going straight into Neely Henry on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Easter on Sunday with family, and then trying to get back in the swing of things on Monday. I'm needing a little extra kick. So, Neely Henry by the numbers 221 teams fished. Yes, 225 paid for the event. 221 showed up at the ramp on Saturday morning. 207 teams weighed in. 174 teams had limits. 971 bass caught. 966 bass released. We had 646 largemouth, 325 spotted bass, 1,943.35 pounds total weighed in. 1940 again is your winning weight with a 657 big fish, and that was weighed in by Shannon Thomas and Shane Kent. They took home an additional $1,000 for that fish. Chris Colley won the First $1,000 highest finisher bonus. Hunter Gilbert, $2,500 Phoenix payday, being the highest finishing Phoenix. And if you look on the results page, you're going to go, wait, there were three people ahead of him. The people that won were actually not fishing in their Phoenix. They had some issues. I think they lost a lower unit or something on Friday, had to borrow a boat, so they were not fishing in their boat. Wesley Sams and Craig Daniels were not fishing out of Craig's Phoenix. They were fishing out of Wesley's boat, so that ruled them out. And so then the next one was Hunter Gilbert. So he took home $2,500 for the highest finishing Phoenix owner, original owner of his Phoenix boat. And then John Kellett, decking his boat out in all Garmin electronics and Garland trolling motor, took home $1,000 on the Garmin rewards bonus program. So that kind of wraps up, who all was paid out on the ABT. One thing I want to say about this, the weights were not quite what I expected. I really expected us to see over that 21-pound mark. A couple of things played into that. This is the fourth weekend in a row that Neely Henry has seen a tournament with over 100 boats. And they've had 23-pound weights weighed in there. They've had 21-pound weights weighed in there in the weeks leading up to us. But they also had rain and they had current. And I think that was a little bit different with us. We typically go to Neely Henry and have rain. I really can't remember a time that we haven't had rain when we went to Neely Henry. And if you remember last year, during the weigh-in, it was a monsoon, but no rain this week. Warming trends. And then when you looked at, we did a new thing on live, and if you haven't seen it, you can go back and watch it. But we actually flew the drone as we're following a team, and you could see the difference in the water clarity. I think a lot of guys wanted to go bed fishing, but the water clarity just wasn't there. They couldn't see the fish. We still had some people that were bed fishing. We saw that on live, but for the most part, I don't think that it paid off for a lot of the people that were hoping to do that, just simply because the water was quite muddy for us not to have any rain. So that didn't necessarily pay off for some of the teams, but it certainly paid off big dividends for the guys that won. They took home over $15,000 for their win on the Alabama Bass Trail. First-time winners as well, Todd Beaty and Ethan Mcdonald out of Livingston, Tennessee. I'm going to have to do something with that camera. I have no idea why I keep stopping like that, but I will try to. I talk with my hands and I just can't help it. But we're going to talk to them in just a little bit, talk about their day, how this all transpired, and then what it feels like to be a champion on the Alabama Bass Trail, punching their ticket already to the championship on Wheeler Lake in October. So they can go ahead and make their reservations and get ready for that. These are Tennessee guys, so I got to think that Tennessee River is appealing to them for the championship. So I'm excited to get there. I'm completely pumped about being back in Decatur. That's my former hometown. Lived there for a long time. Wheeler was my home lake. So I'm looking forward to getting back there, and I know these guys are excited about that as well. We do have the Alabama River coming up. Mr. Luke Duncan is going to join me in the third segment of the Alabama Bass Trail podcast today. We're going to recap Neely. He's had a really, really busy week. As you know, he is on the water analyst or a live analyst for the MPFL. Left his duties there on Friday, came to Neely Henry Friday night, and then was on the water and emceed the Neely Henry tournament. So it's really cool, and I hate to say this when Luke's not on air with me, but I got a text message from Luke on Saturday night, and I'm sure he was probably making his stop at Bucky's, which he always does on his way back. But just the sincere thanks for being part of the Alabama basketball team. And I say this all the time, and this is not anything other than the most sincere comments that I can give you guys. Working for the Alabama Bass Trail and working with some of the most amazing people is is a gift. It really is. And there are amazing people throughout the bass fishing world. And I'm going to talk about that when we get into uh, the happenings last week here at Smith Lake and at Lake Norman. To work alongside people who genuinely care, who genuinely love their job. I talked about that at Logan Martin when one of our very important team members, and they're all important, don't get me wrong, but Mark is our bump sink guy. Mark's been our bump sink guy now for almost 8 years, I guess. He is a huge part of our team. And when Mark was so sick that he couldn't hardly stand up, to send him home and our other team members rally to make sure that not a thing was missed and that no one could see a hole or a weak link was amazing. It was a somber feeling Saturday morning at the boat ramp because of the tragedy that happened on Smith Lake earlier in the week and the potential tragedy on Lake Norman, I guess, last week during the NPFL. We all understand our responsibility when we get there. And even though I had a meeting with our team, I didn't really even need to. They understand the immense amount of responsibility that we carry when we have those events. And and I'm so glad that Luke can come in and see that and sent me a really kind message Saturday night about our team. And then Darian sent a message on Saturday as well, recognizing the hard work of our team and how they just strive to just knock it out of the park all the time. Um, it was really it's really cool. I mean, Darian runs a very successful company. He understands what the teamwork means. He understands what weak links can mean to a company, and for him to recognize that and point that out is super cool for someone like myself. But I do want to mention, I meant to start the show off with this and completely forgot about it. It's in my notes. I should have remarked about that. You may hear Wrigley barking downstairs. I'm sure the postman is here. Um, Last week, MLF had I think it was an invitational, Tackle Warehouse Invitational tournament on Smith Lake. Second day of competition, a young angler out of Leesburg, Georgia, was involved in an accident involving a striper guide boat. I think 5 people were on the boat, and then there was a collision that took place. And I'm not going to elaborate much on the situation, just simply because it's not my place. MLF has made an official statement. I think the young man has made an official statement. The family members of the people who survived and attorneys have made statements. I live in Coleman now. I've been here since August, and I can tell you the mood of the community was very sad. I was out of the country. I was traveling back that day. My phone was going off, it- just as it just did then. Um, it's a very sad time for our industry, and it's a very sad time for our community, a very sad time for the families of those who were involved, those who lost their lives, and those who are recovering. It's a really hard time right now. I did an interview with WBRC out of Birmingham on Friday. I was asked about a lot of things that could could organizations do better? Could, what regulations do I think need to come out of this? And I hate when I do interviews and it's not video recorded because words can be sliced and diced. And I don't think this young lady did that. I'm not saying that she did, but, on our podcast, I want to relay my feelings about this. I think that organizations like BASS, like MLF, like the Alabama Bass Trail, and so many others do everything within our power to be safe. I think we encourage our anglers to be safe. There's penalties for not wearing your PFDs. There's penalties for blowing bridges. There's penalties for, I think overall our organizations are very strong on implementing safe boating ta- uh, tactics. I think we encourage anglers to be well aware. And I think right now most anglers are. It's top of mind awareness right now. This accident was the shot heard around the world. It was aired on most national TV stations, newspapers, .coms. And I think right now anglers are very self-aware. My goal is that they remain self-aware in October and then in December and in January and February when we start a new season. The goal is to always have that front of mind awareness of not being distracted, or if it's clear at blast off and you run into a patch of fog 3 miles away from takeoff, that is your decision to navigate through that or to anchor down on the side and just wait it out. We can, and some of the steps that the Alabama Bass Trail takes is that we start monitoring weather conditions 7 to 10 days ahead of time. There are times we have to postpone tournaments, like we had to do at Lake Guntersville. There are times we have to postpone takeoff, like we did at the championship, like we almost had to do at Lake Guntersville for the ABT 100. But at 1 o'clock in the daytime at Guntersville, fog set in. At 1 p.m., fog set in. At that time, anglers have to make a decision as to how they are going to handle that situation. We can't send out a call and ask for everyone to run back to the boat ramp and start weighing early. That would be more dangerous as if we let them set out there and them find a safe, navigable part of the water, or to decide to stay anchored somewhere and just fish. So I think as organizations, all of us do everything we can do with planning. We are fortunate. We have drone technology that we can send a drone out up to a mile away to look at the fog. Is it sitting on the water? Is it above the water? We also have 3 camera boats that we can send out to assess the situation. Jason has done that several times. Luke has made those runs several times. You send out guys, you bring them back. We have to trust them. They can take photo evidence. They can FaceTime us. They can let us see what's going on 3 miles down the lake. We use everything at our disposal to make those calls. And I'm sure MLF and BASS does the same thing. We as anglers, just as we are as vehicle operators, if we're driving down the interstate, we have to stay focused and make sure that we are not distracted from the task at hand. Those are the leading issues with accidents. I think I saw somewhere that in 2024 we had almost 32,000 vehicle accidents in the state of Alabama. We had about 57 boating accidents. Over half of those were on coastal waterways. It happens. And unfortunately, this time it was very, very, very tragic. Our hearts were broken, and they still are. Our thoughts and prayers are with their families, as well as the young man that was involved in it, 22 years old, I believe. Our hearts go out to them. Our thoughts, our prayers go out to them. And this is what's in the news right now. This is like any other sport where the risk of injury is there, just as football or baseball or NASCAR or, I guess probably golf has less likelihood of injury. But in a lot of sports, there are the risk of injury. And this one was fatal. And I can't explain enough how hard this hits, especially when you're the person responsible for an organization that's in the same line of business. So I can assure you, I don't speak for Bass and I don't speak for MLF, that we take these jobs very seriously. we are very thankful for our anglers. And the best thing in the world is to have 225 key fobs back in that box at the end of the day. So thank you to all those who reached out. Continue to pray for those families who are recovering and those families that have lost loved ones. I know that they will appreciate it. Next up, Mr. Todd Beaty and Ethan Mcdonald to talk about their win on the Alabama Bass Trail, Neely Henry Lake Stop number 3. We'll talk to them in just a minute. So you guys stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment on the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Stay tuned.
Big banks only care about one thing, ROI. So when it comes to your small business, you can expect a big no. At AmFirst, we don't just invest in your business. We invest in you and your goals. With great rates on loans, lines of credit to help you grow, and business checking accounts. Because at AmFirst, business is personal.
Welcome back to the second segment of the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. And guys, first part of this segment, I said I didn't know if I was pronouncing the name correctly. Well, I have been until the first part of the podcast when I went to Beatty. It is Todd Beaty and Ethan Mcdonald, your 2025 Neely Henry Alabama Bass Trail Champions. Welcome to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How cool. I mean, fourth weekend in a row, Neely Henry's had over 100 boats. We knew fishing going into this was going to be tough. I still thought it would take 21 pounds. I was a little surprised by the color of the water. With us not having any rain that week, the water was awfully muddy to me. Did that seem like that to y'all?
It did.
Ethan's shaking his head.
Yeah, when we got there on Wednesday and we did see the water, we felt like it was dirtier than normal. Again, we've only been there twice in our life, but the river seemed dirtier than what we'd seen, without any rain. I'm assuming it had something to do with the water coming up or down, maybe. I don't really know.
Was there a lot of water fluctuation from Wednesday to Saturday for y'all?
I think the water rose roughly a foot from like Tuesday maybe to Saturday. Okay. It was stable, I know, on Friday and Saturday when we looked at it both mornings before we put the boat in water, and it was I think about a foot roughly low from Summer Pool.
All right. Tell everybody where y'all are from. Todd, go ahead.
I'm from Livingston, Tennessee.
Ethan?
I also am from Livingston, Tennessee.
So what lake is your home lake?
Dale Hollow.
That's what I thought. I remembered Luke talking about that a little bit on stage. This is your second season on the Alabama Bass Trail. Where did you finish last year at Neely?
Not good.
Okay, let's just leave it there.
We actually like Neely, though, to be honest with you. I mean, we like it even more now, right? But,
oh, yeah.
So 2 years ago, we actually fished the Bama BFLs.
Okay.
And that year we went to Neely, and me and Ethan was traveling, and we both did very, very well in those tournaments. I mean, it wasn't great, but I had a good finish. I had a top 15 finish on the boater side, and Ethan actually signed up as my co-angler that year. And how did you do, Ethan? I don't remember.
I think maybe it was like in the top 25 or 30 or something like that. Should have had the opportunities to have a pretty good day, but I think I squandered in there at the end of the day. But still had a good run at it that day.
Okay.
So last year, once we arrived at Neely, we was like, this is a tournament we think we can do really well in. And we had a phenomenal practice. I mean, we had like Thursday before the tournament, we probably had 17, 18 pound and like had it dialed up. We was on them, we felt like. And then Saturday we go out and we catch 50 fish and probably 35 or 40 of them's keepers, and we have 8 pounds. So kind of made us mad at Neely after that. But we did have a little bit of history there, not much. We just, we have been there a few times.
Well, you said you came in on Wednesday. Y'all fished Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Do you think in the Alabama Bass Trail that in order to be competitive, you need to set aside that kind of time for practice? Ethan?
I mean, I would say in our shoes, especially, aside from Lake Gunnersville, we've never been to any of these lakes more than a time, except for the last couple of years. So I would say early on, if, in our case, yeah, I mean, I think you need at least a couple days exposure. Now, Wednesdays, I mean, we do get down there on Wednesdays. Sometimes it's that morning. Sometimes it's in the middle of the day. We didn't get started this past Wednesday morning until probably 11 o'clock or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But just to get familiar for the first time, with the body of water, because it's different. I mean, we love the way these lakes set up and fish, but it's when you're on Dale Hollow every weekend, it's a lot different. I mean, it just totally different atmospheres. I mean, the closest thing we go to that reminds us of home is Smith Lake.
Okay.
And, but even there, you got, and let me tell you something, when you're fishing against the quality people that's in this trail, you've got to put some time in, or you just got to be some of the best and be able to just show up and go.
Right.
Which we're confident, but even confident anglers need practice. So,
Todd, I know when we wrapped up the TV show, you said we felt going in we could win this event. What gave you that kind of confidence? Having only fished the Alabama Bass Trail, this is your second year. What gave you that confidence? Because you said that pretty confidently, and I'm not in a cocky kind of way, but in just we've done our homework. We know we just, with our practice and what we've seen and all that, you felt very confident going in. This was a tournament you could win.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't exactly, can't put my finger on exactly what it was. One of the things that we really like about Neely Henry, and I know you guys call it the equalizer tournament. I love the fact that it's tough and it's a grinder. It's not so fun when you come down there and you get on them like we did last year and then you catch 8 pound. And that's kind of what equalizes it out, but I like where it don't take a lot of weight a lot of times, and you really have to grind, because I kind of feel like in those grindy style tournaments, a lot of times it starts to separate you start to, break down throughout the day, lose your mental focus, and me and Ethan really fish well together when it's tough, and when it ain't just a catch fest, and Neely sets up like that. I feel like what little bit we know about it, and that's one of the reasons I felt like we had a shot to win. But more than that, I don't know. I had this gut feeling. I've only had like 3 of these in my life since I've been tournament fishing, and I don't know what to put my finger on or what to call it to. I don't know if it's a sign from God. Like, I don't really know. There's something. I just told Ethan I had this gut feeling that this weekend we was going to win. And even after practice, it was like, maybe we could win. We had seen some of the right quality, but we hadn't been able to put 5 of them in the boat one day. And then the way it went down Saturday afternoon just made it even more surreal that, that gut feeling that I was feeling was true. And it's pretty special. I told Ethan, I don't think he's ever had one of those feelings, but I've had them 3 times that I know of. And one time my wife had one, and it was for BFL, and she woke me up on Friday morning. I wasn't even going to get to practice, and she said, "Hey, you need to fish this BFL this weekend. You're going to win." And I was like, "You're nuts! I ain't even signed up for the BFL, and I probably can't even get in." So I called and ended up. Long story short, I got in the BFL and I won the tournament the next day. So I don't know. It's just some kind of gut instinct, but I had that this week, and I couldn't describe why I had it, but it worked out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What boat number did y'all go out?
24.
24. Were you excited about that, or did you really hope to have that later afternoon practice? Afternoon bite.
I mean, personally, I don't really know. I guess on one hand, I would say pre-tournament, we were excited for having an early boat number just because of some of the local areas that tend to, put out, solid fish, especially around takeoff. And, we actually gambled on doing that. It didn't necessarily pan out. But, we did catch a few in there that morning to kind of get us going. And, I don't know. It's like you want the best of both worlds. You want to go out early and stay late, but the reality of tournament fishing, that don't happen. But I'd say we were pleased with an early number just because it was, it didn't work out for us this time, but it all worked out at the same time.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I love the early number myself. I mean, I just, not to interrupt you, I know how, I mean, I guess, from what we know about Neely, it fishes so small. And the early number, I thought, heck, at least we'll get to pick where we want to go, what area we
right.
want to start in. Last year we was a late number, and it seemed like everywhere we went and took the boat, we was like, daggum, there's 3 boats here, there's 5 boats there. So it's kind of covered up. So like Ethan said, when we first seen her number, which we knew her number with the way it works, without how the drawings come out. And Ethan's like, we're going to get a good number at Neely. And we was both excited about that. But, like he said, maybe we'd like to have both worlds, but I think it worked out pretty good.
Well, the downside of that is you come in first flight and you've got to wait the entire way in. What was that?
That was terrible. That was terrible.
How was your phone during that time?
I don't know about Ethan's because I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I've won a lot of good sized tournaments, but this was the biggest one that I'd ever won. And I wanted to win this so bad. So I was pretty nervous. Ethan handled it a little better than me. He sat in the truck, just calm and cool. I probably walked about 7 miles in the next 3 hours. I think I paced the parking lot, and it was I was nerve wracking. I mean, my phone was blowing up, and people, hey, just seen you on live, blah blah blah. But I was nervous. I really wanted this one bad, bad, bad. Just because the quality of fishermen y'all have in the Alabama Bass Tour is like, I mean, there's nothing compares to it. I don't think. I think it's some of the best bass fishermen in the world. They may not be professionals, but they're weekend anglers that when you look across the names of them, it's just like, man, I beat, this guy today, or I beat that guy today. And I wanted just to be able to know that we belonged, that we could win one of these things. And it really boosted, our confidence too. I know it did mine. I'm sure it did Ethan's too.
You both own your own business. Ethan, what's your business?
I own and operate a small dump trucking outfit up here in Nashville.
Okay.
And yeah, it's been a good deal. We've been doing it for about, I guess, 8 years now. It's small enough to be able to not be too overwhelmed, but big enough to still have some headaches. So it's a good balance.
Good. What about you, Todd?
I'm a FedEx contractor. So
Okay.
the name of my company is Red Letter Trucking, and it's the red letters out of the Bible is what it means. And it's it's a pretty big operation. I've got about 45 drivers, 4 managers, so there's about 50 of us total employees. But it's located in Cookeville, Tennessee, which is just south of Livingston, probably about 15 miles.
Well, the reason I say that is a lot of people, talk about the people that fish the Alabama Bass Pro. You guys work Monday through Friday. I mean, you own your own business. You got people that report to you. You're responsible for payrolls for, other families. So I think that's important to understand that our guys are Monday through Friday, whether they're wrench turners, whether they're CEOs or whatever, they are working Monday through Friday. Let's talk about your day. Boat 24, you're going out right at around that 6:15 mark. We blasted off about 6:05, started blast off. How far did you make your first run?
Go ahead, Ethan.
Well, we stayed pretty darn close because we tried to capitalize on early boat number. Stayed pretty close. Made a little run up the lake, and in an area that we had seen some quality fish and is known for some quality fish. And basically we just tried to get. It wasn't our primary area, but we thought, hey, we're going to go up there and try to make the most of an early number. And if we can get a couple opportunities, they may be the right opportunities. And we got a couple opportunities. They just were mediocre opportunities. And, we did that deal for maybe an hour or so, kind of saw, hey, we better be getting, kind of down where we have a little bit more confidence and whatnot. And then took off down the lake.
Okay. So when you say you went up lake, did you go north?
We did.
We went to
north.
the golf course holler.
Okay. Well, we had several boats in there. Darian started there covering people on live.
Yeah.
So then you decided you would run south. You'd go south. There
Yeah.
was a ton of people down there too, because we saw all of our trackers on the water and all of that. So we saw a ton of people. Talk about your early morning presentation. What kind of baits were you throwing early morning?
We started off in the golf course holler throwing. Ethan was throwing a buzz bait. I was swimming a jig. Um, we actually started in there, like he said, kind of a little gamble. But Wednesday, we actually went in the golf course holler and we'd actually floated up a couple on a floating worm, on a pink floating worm. And they come up and eat it. And we seen they was big ones. They was 4+ pound bass. And so that was another reason why we started in there, because we thought, shoot, we may go in there and get lucky with an early boat number and get, a good quality bite or two. Because, of course, we all know Neely Henry, that's what you got to have, those bigger bites. And then after that, we left and we actually fished another spot or two close to takeoff, just kind of the same deal, swim a jig, throwing a buzz bait. And then we made a long run, went down to Canoe Creek. And Luke actually pulled up on us right after we got to Canoe Creek. And we caught a limit fast in Canoe Creek, and we was throwing buzzbait and square bill. We'd got a little shad spawn deal going down there, but I guess we'd kind of waited probably too late where we'd went up the lake and fished for an hour or two. We'd let the sun get up pretty high. And I think when we got there, the shad spawn was just starting to fizzle out. And so we had like 8 pound, 12 ounces on our scales when Luke left us. And then we started to focus on what I felt like was probably our main pattern, which was boat docks. And so we started running boat docks, and we was skipping a Green Pumpkin Magic Gary Yamamoto Cinco round and junk fishing between the docks. We would pick up a buzz bait or a flipping stick or a swim jig, just kind of hitting the targets is in front of us. And the first pocket we went in after Luke left us, Ethan breaks off about a 3.5, 4 pounder. He gets it up and we see it good. It gets wrapped around the dock post and we're like, oh gosh. So we start going to it and it breaks his line. So that really let the air out of us, because at that time we had one little bitty, like 1 pounder in the live well. And we was like, dang, that gave us, close to 12 pound that one bite. And, so that stuck in our head. And I'd have to go back and look on live, but that was fairly early in the morning. And to be honest with you, we did not cull that little 1 pounder until 12 o'clock, Ethan.
Something like that, yeah.
We actually run back in another pocket or creek, and we got back in there where we was planning on fishing, and there was 3 boats going down through there. And so Ethan, we started to spin the boat around. I was driving. Ethan said, he kind of just hit me on the arm and said, what about those docks over there on the other side? And he's like, I know we ain't fished them, but it's boat docks. And I was like, all right. So we roll over to them, and we catch a couple small ones on the Cinco. We fish down to probably the last few. I'm on the trolling motor. Ethan's standing on the back deck. I skip a Cinco up underneath the dock, and I catch one that's a 4 1/4. So that got the blood flowing and the confidence spiked back up for a minute. And we go to the next dock, and I catch a 2 3/4. So now we're really getting going, but we're running out of time too. So we got like probably maybe 30 minutes of fishing left. And we had one pocket left that we really had some confidence in that we hadn't been to. And Ethan had caught a fish in there on Friday that was probably 4 1/4 pound. And he said, hey, let's go to that pocket and we'll live or die in there. So we run to that pocket. And when we get to that pocket, we set the boat down and we start idling in because it was shallow getting in there. So we've got the motor trimmed up and we're going across this little flat. And we see a boat coming out. We was like, well, daggum, that stinks kind of. But, because there wasn't but a few docks in there. There's like 5 or 6 docks. So it was like they've probably hit every one of them. So long story short, we went in there anyways because we was running out of time. We set the trolling motor down. The first dock we come to, Ethan catches a 2 3/4 pounder on a floating worm. We get back in the pocket, and I know I told it on stage, but it kind of really reminded me of Del Hollow. It was dead still. There's some pollen on the water. it looked like the most perfect place a bass could ever spawn. And Ethan had laid his Cinco down, and I bent over, or he laid his floating worm down. I bent over and picked the floating worm up after he laid it down on his rod. And he's standing on the outside fishing the docks on the opposite side of the pocket, kind of throwing across the pocket. And I skip a floating worm over by a little piece of wood, and I'm working it, and I get it out off the bank where I could barely see the floating worm, and I just see a flash on it. I pick up, and it's got it, and I set the hook, and it's a 4.9. So now we're up to 16 pound, and Ethan's first words was, "Dang, I wish I hadn't lost. I wish I hadn't lost that other fish, this morning, because we'd be right there." And we was both feeling good. Like we was confident, but we was feeling about that. Was sick about that fish from earlier. But I told him, I said, "Don't worry, I'm gonna catch another 4-pounder." And I had confidence going. Like I was feeling it. But we go down the bank just a little further, literally, and he notices a fish, looks like a fish, runs something off through the grass, and I throw a floating worm over there, and literally it comes up and eats it, and I catch it, and it's a 4 3/4. And we go from 16 to 19 something. So we basically go from coming in that pocket with 12 pounds something to catching 19 something in 25, 30 minutes. And away we go back the way in.
That's, the story that you told as we're wrapping up the TV show. What color was your floating worm?
Bubblegum pink. Yep.
I see that, and people don't understand. One of my favorite lures ever was a bubblegum pink frog, like indicator back when we had the lily pads in Flick Creek. That was my favorite bait to throw across those lily pads. And I don't think people give that bait it's love, that color, it's love, because in certain times that's the only color that we could get bid on back, like I said, when we had lily pads. We don't have them anymore at Wheeler. So but yeah, I love that.
In the springtime of year, it's I love it. Me and Ethan both love to float a worm. He floats a purple one a lot of times back home here at Del Holla, but I'm a pink guy. You don't get a lot of fish to come out and eat it, but when you get them, you're taking them the way in. They're the right kind. The big females like the pink, so I'm a pink guy. That's what I'm looking for.
Good deal. Good deal. 1940 is what it took to take home the win, $15,000. That's great. But the really cool thing is you've punched your ticket to Wheeler now. So for sure you have made the championship on Wheeler Lake. How excited are you to be on the Tennessee River for the championship?
I think we're pretty excited. I mean, just anytime having an opportunity at the ABT championship's a good thing. But we've not, last year was the first time we've been to Wheeler. So we don't have any experience on Wheeler, especially in the fall. But we like fall fishing because it sets up how we like to do things. And I'd say we're pretty excited. We're definitely, after the catastrophe that was Gunnersville for us, I'd say we're definitely excited that we punched our ticket because we had a long hole to climb out of. Not that I don't think we had confidence that we couldn't do it, but we kind of put ourselves behind the 8 ball after Gunnersville. And so getting a big win on Neely Henry and going ahead and getting that championship qualification out of the way was a relief.
Can you fish a little bit easier going into Weiss now? Kind of knowing that you've got that?
Here's my game plan for the rest of the year. We've got our ticket punched, and I ain't coming to get a check. I'm coming to win these son of a guns. I know that's a tall task and hard to do, but I'm gonna fish confident. I'm gonna fish to win. I don't care if I zero the next two. My ticket's punched, and I'm a risk taker and a gambler, and that's why I fish. And I've never been to Weiss, so I don't know what the heck that's gonna be like. But
that's right. It wasn't on the regular schedule last year. That's right.
I've already started watching videos of it and doing my homework. I'm eating up with bass fishing, both of us, so we'll be prepared. But if we catch them, we catch them. If we don't, we don't. We're going to. There's no reason I see in just trying to go get a check. I want to, swing for these things, especially these next two. With that off the table and knowing, hey, we've locked up our bid to go to Wheeler. It's like, why play it safe? Let's go jump off a cliff.
I understand. Second year on the Alabama Bass Trail. Ethan, if you had to tell somebody yes or no, you want to fish the Alabama Bass Trail, no, stay home, what would you say to them?
I tell them 100% get in it.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of boats. How about you, Todd?
100%. You know, it's the best run tournament that I've ever been a part of. And I don't say that because of being on here, but what you guys do is impressive. And it's you feel like family. You don't feel like, last year we showed up and I don't know how many Tennessee boys is there with us or who's there with us, but I mean everybody's pretty dang nice, and everybody that puts the tournament on especially is super nice, and just the way it's ran. And uh, I that it's hard not to enjoy putting your boat in for the entry fee that we have to pay, knowing that if you're in Phoenix, you're fishing for $23,000. It's hard to come back home and fish a pot tournament for 500 and have those same feelings. Like the way I explain fishing the ABTs to anybody, it's like fishing your top tier style tournament. It's like fishing a Bassmaster Open or something like that, because you're fishing for big time money, and like it's awesome. I mean, they ain't no better feeling than putting a boat in, whether you're on them or not, knowing that I got a chance today to hold up a Happy Gilmore check and get this thing done. So it's special. I tell everybody about it, and last year we had travel partners that traveled with us. Unfortunately, they didn't get to come this year with us. They had some issues back at home, but it's fun. It's so fun, and y'all do an amazing job. What y'all have done, we're jealous in Tennessee. We've talked about it like, hey, man, wish there was a Miss K in Tennessee that could put all these things together, because we got some good lakes too. But we enjoy coming to Alabama and fishing with you guys. It's a lot of fun.
I said this in the first segment. I have the best team in all of bass fishing. My guys and gals that work for us are just fantastic. And that I say it all the time. You can go fish anytime you want to, but when you come and you feel like family and you know that you're appreciated and you know that those guys are working their butts off to make sure that your experience is the best it can be, I have the best in the world as far as I'm concerned. So I appreciate you guys. You are the 2025 Neely Henry Alabama Bass Trail North champions. Wear that with pride. And we'll see y'all in just under 3 weeks at Weiss Lake. Maybe y'all can do it again, back to back.
It'd be nice.
All right, there you have it. Todd Beaty and Ethan Mcdonald, your 2025 Alabama Bass Trail champions, Neely Henry Lake. Y'all stay tuned. Mr. Luke Duncan is up next. We're going to talk a little bit about Neely, but we're also going to talk about that Alabama River. Y'all stay tuned.
Things you let me see.
Welcome back to the second segment of the Alabama Bass Trail presented by Phoenix Boats. And Mr. Luke Duncan, are you sick and tired of talking bass fishing by this time?
Listen, I don't want to let anybody down that thinks this is all I want to talk about always, but a little bit, a little bit. No, I love it. I'm very blessed to get to do what I get to do. So complaining is not something you'll hear me do a lot. Now, I did take a break from it on Easter. There was a 24-hour, I don't think I said crankbait, LOB jig, floating worm. I don't think I said anything. I truly, before things got fired up around here, I went and sat on a hillside and listened to some turkeys and watched the sun come up. Had my own little sunrise service yesterday morning and did not think about a bass for a little bit. And then I did a lot of laying around yesterday too. I'll just tell you.
I mentioned in the first segment, I mean, you had 3 days in PFL, which really is about 4 or 5 days because you get there a couple days early or a day early, and you kind of are just getting to see what everybody's doing, talking about practice, all the things. So you really talk 5 days, and then you jump in your truck on Friday afternoon, you book it over to Neely Henry. We had a meeting on Thursday night, so we're talking. You come over on Friday, early Saturday morning, you're at the boat ramp ready to do it all over again. Exactly like Lake Norman, except a little different there at Neely Henry. So.
Yeah, same kind of deal though going on. I mean, obviously Neely Henry's very different than Lake Norman and Clearwater, and it doesn't fluctuate that much. But the same kind of patterns, though, definitely
Yeah.
playing. April in the South, it was interesting to see that after being around Norman and then seeing the kind of the same things play at Neely was interesting.
I got to know, what did y'all give Greg Hackney to make him talk as much as he talked on MPFL Live?
I told you this, I think Thursday night. We had covered him that day, Fat Cat and I, and I said on our production meeting Thursday night, I said, I have known Greg Hackney for 20 years. I love Greg Hackney. Okay. I'm a fanboy, but also I consider him a friend. I've known him a long time. I've got to hear some amazing stories from him behind the scenes over the years. And he can be a talker. Okay. Understand that. Like he can be. He's a great storyteller. But on live, most of the time, especially when he's like locked in.
Dialed, yeah.
Yeah, and he was at Norman. I said that the first day weigh in. I'm like, uh-oh. He was dialed in. Like I told Fat Cat when he took the lead, I'm like, he kind of had that look about him that he's had many times. And then on live, he was so great with sharing everything he was doing, what he was looking for. I've never seen him do that before.
Do
Because
you
normally
think?
a sneaky guy.
Well, I was going to say, do you think though that it is because there's no forward facing, so they're able to break it down more than I'm watching them on the screen? Do you think it had something to do with that?
I think a little bit. I think those guys that are coming from Bass and coming from BPT that are fishing with us, where there is this, it's happening. Like those tournaments are, there's a lot of guys mixing it up that are experts with forward facing. I think it just takes a load off their shoulders. And look, I'm a live scope fan. Obviously, I love it. Yeah, Garmin has been in my life for a long time. I had it. I was one of like 10 people that had it when it first came out. I slapped myself every day that I didn't know how good it was. To be honest, I didn't exactly know. I should have laid down my pink floating worm and went live scoping a little bit more a few years ago, and things might be a little different.
You might not be doing live for the Alabama Bass Trail.
Trophy shelf might look different because I had lightning in a bottle and didn't know it. But I think it is. It's like that with Swindle. It's like that with Hank Cherry, the guy, not to take anything away from our MPFL guys, but the people that are competing against that all the time. And not to say our other anglers aren't, because they are in other tournaments as well. But it is like this breath of fresh air with them over there. It is. They are so relaxed. These guys, like even Hank. Hank's one of the most, like when he's in a tournament, he don't want to be messed with. He is locked in. Christy, listen, Christy will look at you and you'll feel like, all right, I just need to go over here and wash your truck. I mean, that's just
Does he
Jason.
give you that Rob? Does he give that Rob Lee to Darian look?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I do think that's a little bit of it. And Swindle said that on my podcast earlier this year. He said, I like that I just don't have to worry about that play being in the playbook, that I can just go do, you know what? This is what I've done for 40 years, and I can just go do that. And you've seen that. Swindle's had 2 great finishes in a row, just outside the top 10. But I think that's a little bit, and I will be honest, it's a little bit like ABT in the fact that they try to be welcoming. It's a family feeling event. They let the guys practice with Bill Lowen's out there practicing with his son Fisher. He's not allowed to do that in the elites. You should be allowed to do that. You know what I mean? Like that's not a knock at Bass, but that's cool. Fisher's on the road with him. He's getting to go out with his Elite Series champ dad and see how he breaks down a body of water, just like Alton Jones Jr. did for years with Alton and so many others. It's really cool. So I just think the overall environment has them that way, and they want it to work. They want to be able to fish it every year. Talking to those guys. So but again, all that being said, blown away. And if you haven't watched it, shameless plug, go back and watch it on YouTube because Hackney was awesome, man. For 2 days, he was awesome. Just scrub till you see Hackney and stop there. It's great.
Well, I have people that fish our trail that are not what you would can see or say are fanboys. Like they would never just go, oh my God, this is my. But I have so many say Greg Hackney is their favorite angler that's ever fished anything. Like they just absolutely will watch anything he does because he's just so. He is
charismatic. He's charismatic.
He is. It's a good word.
He's the clutch dude at the plate, the cleanup batter that is not scared of anything, that intimidates the hell out of the pitcher, right? He's that guy, and he's going to hit it. Yep. He's going to hit it. Like, throw it right down the middle, try to challenge him. He's that guy.
Yeah.
And giving us some of the best sound bites in fishing history. on live and on TV. So he's got a big fan base. It was interesting, like when we started posting that he was doing well after day one. Our social media, the numbers, Fat Cat's involved with that. And he's going, look at this. I mean, it's insane. People do pull. Well, same with Christy. They pull for those guys that have been their heroes for a long time, and those guys have earned that right. So
Hmm.
I'm here.
Yeah, yeah, I loved it. I loved it. You know, Greg will know who I am if I walk up. I, certainly know who he is. I wouldn't say we're friends, but the admiration that I have for him and how he has weathered all of these storms through Bass, through all the BPT split and everything.
Came back, worked his way in, came back. Like,
Exactly.
man,
Exactly. It's just been a really cool story. So I know NPFL, ABT, you got your own podcast. I talked about this. You talk fishing all the time. Let's talk a little bit about Neely Henry, and then we're going to move on to the Alabama River. I didn't do a podcast last week. I was vacationing, hence the new tan I got going on. So, and hey, I'm just gonna say that was 6 incredible days of just.
I see it. I'm
It
jealous.
was it was great. It was great. Neely Henry, no crazy weather for the first time, and I can't remember when on an Alabama Bass Trail, but especially Neely Henry. I mean, we usually always have some kind of something exactly the same as Alabama River. Why I put these two back to back? I know that something's going to hit on these two tournaments. So
No,
we
Cooter's not be frozen this
we.
weekend.
It will be. It will be. We talked about Neely Henry being the equalizer. One year we started at Neely Henry. Our buddy Jonathan Collins Goob, they won that tournament. We saw a whole different top 40 at that tournament than we normally see when we start off on the Tennessee River or even at Smith Lake. So we call Neely the equalizer. It's where you see those points jumps happen. And we saw that this weekend. I mean, we saw some different names up there in that top 40. Uh,
Always. I love that you called it the equalizer. We were struggling for a word, me, Jason, and Darian, on what it is, because it's always on the schedule, and it's one of my favorite lakes to fish. It always has been. I've got a history with it. Me and my dad going back there. I've got a lot of good memories on Neely Henry, so it's always special being there. I love being there, and I missed it last year. I had another event and couldn't make it, and so it was really cool getting to do ABT there. But I think it's about surviving that event for a lot of guys that it doesn't suit their style, and I think a lot of them did. Going back and looking at the points after they've updated. I mean, you got Hunter Davidson and Bryant Fikes. Yeah, they called them 12 and some change. They got a check though. I think it took 11.90 to get paid, which is kind of a little lower
a
for
little lower.
what we were expecting. I think we were kind of calling 13. I think Durant actually said 15,
I
which
said 15 too.
we've seen that at Neely before.
Yes.
But I think the water level fluctuations just had everything a little funky. Uh, but yeah, like Bryant and Hunter, they survived it. They survived it. They're still just right there in that AOI race. Mark and Tim survived it. Now they had 13 and some change. They did not have the day they were expecting to have, or that they could have weighed in. I pulled up on them and they lost two really good fish early on the shad spawn. So they could have certainly been in the top 10 in the mix, sounds like, for sure there. So that's what it's about. Now, there were some like Fisher and Ryan. He weighed 10 pounds, and Fisher said on stage, yeah, it's my first ever double digit limit here. So I'm excited. But historically, it just kicks their butt. They don't mesh well with Neely Henry. And a lot of our anglers are the same way. But I think to kind of put it in perspective for folks at home, Neely's a big lake. It's a very big lake, but it's a river. It's not very wide at any point. If you're fishing one side of the river, you can see what your buddy's doing across the river pretty much. I mean,
Right.
it's very narrow for the most part. And 225 boats, it will handle that and then some. But there are a lot of locals that like to get out on a beautiful Saturday. And on the lower end where I was at, there were a lot of boats, man. And that's what's like with Todd and Ethan being able to pull off the win. I watched them fish a stretch that there were 10 other boats on, fishing the exact same stuff they were fishing, and they went a little bit different, a little bit old school. And I think that's such a good reminder for us as fishermen, is like sometimes you kind of got to pull that ace in the hole out that you don't think the fish have seen that much of. And that's what they did. And that's how they kind of separated themselves in that crowded area.
I agree. We talked about seeing some new names up there in the points and new names in the leaderboard, but old fashioned guys, Lee Pitt, Steve Engel, They had an opportunity to have their
Yes.
third win on the Alabama Bass Pro on Neely Henry. Lee weighed in, and his wife was standing in one spot. She stood there for 2 hours. She would not move in that spot. Bless her heart. She kept saying, "Hey, how many more? How many more? I won't even go to the bathroom. Like, I'm standing right here." I say this all the time. Fishermen are, I don't really know. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say superstitious, but kind of superstitious. Like, I
Oh,
know, so, yeah, they wear the same socks, they wear the same shorts, they wear the whatever. But she stood there, and we saw them almost take home their third win with 17:57. Wesley Sams, Craig Daniel, you know, to their standards, haven't had the year, did not have the finish at Smith that they expected, that we expected them to have. They finished third. Got some more Tennessee boys looking at Brian Johnson, Brandon Gross coming in here, taking home some Alabama Bass Trail money. Adam Bain, Chris Colley finishing sixth. They'd had a 23-pound bag the week before. One thing important, though, this is the fourth week in a row this lake's had 100-plus boats on it. The Coosa River doesn't respond to pressure as good as, say, a Lake Gunnersville, Wheeler, Pickwick type scenario.
Oh yeah, that submerged grass is the deal with Gunnersville, right? Like those fish, they can get away from the pressure and they bite every weekend. We see big bags get weighed because they move around. They can kind of hide. Somebody will relocate another little patch of them. But with Neely, it's either rocks, docks, wood, or bank grass that they like to get on. And they rarely just kind of swim out there in the middle. We don't see the scopers do well on the Coosa. Well, shouldn't say on the Coosa, and Neely in particular, the scopers always tend to struggle, it seems like. And you see the scopers up there mixing it up with everybody else on the bank, like a Fisher and Ryan and I, and several more of our scopers. You see them skipping docks and everything. Like, hey, are you lost? That we just get accustomed to seeing them, out there in the middle shaking a freeloader.
Yeah. Well, and that was one thing Darian said right away. Are you lost? Like, dude, and and Fisher said, man, I tried it for a couple of days. It just wasn't working. I've got to do something different because I know that they are wanting to stay inside that top 9. They certainly have their eye on that Angler of the Year prize. And we're going to talk about that just a little bit. Mark McKeag, Tim Hurst leading the Angler of the Year by 7 points. I don't think there's any surprise that there's names are up there. They are having a phenomenal year in both divisions. We'll talk about the South in just a little bit. You talked about Hunter Davis and Bryant Fikes falling from first to second, 7 points behind Mark McKeag, Tim Hurst. Damian Willis, Tyler Kiker, third place. They're going to blame this on me, boat number wise. I've already heard it. Have you?
They're going to blame somebody for something. Hey, they just are. I'm going to take a shot at them right now. They blame me that they weren't catching any fish. Then a duck got in their way Saturday. We're covering them. It's this whole thing. Tighten up, guys. It's not our fault.
That's what I told them. I told them catch them better. That's what I told them when they come off stage. I said, you got to catch them.
I'm such a fan of those two.
I know.
A lot. And at Gunnersville, I pulled up to cover them. They were on a little sneaky deal. They didn't want me to come. I thought they hated me. I was like, oh no, I have upset these gentlemen that I've grown to really like, getting to know them last night. But good dudes. I like to give them a hard time, though, for sure.
I was glad Damien's mom and sister come a lot where they brought his little girl. And I was telling him, I don't understand how much they love me. And then you're just so mean to me. I don't know. You weren't there at Blast Off. But when we finally got to their number, he's going like this for me to hurry up. I told his mom, I said, has he always been this mean? And she said, yes. I said, I just want you to know your mom agrees with me. So shout out Mama Willis on that. Blake Hall, she knows. She knows. Blake Hall, Jeremy Lamb, they're tied, I believe, with Adam Bain and Chris Colley. No, they're tied with Damian and Tyler. So I think for fourth or fifth place, I can't remember, third place. And then Adam Bain, Chris Colley, they're sitting there. Elliott, Galt, and Austin Swindle, who they blamed you for losing their hat.
Yeah, I got blamed for that too. Elliott. Yeah, well, I give Elliott a hard time a lot, as I do most of our anglers. I like to pick at them and truly enjoy spending time with all of them. And yeah, Elliott, we roll up on him. He didn't have a hat on. I said, you trying to catch a sunburn out here? What's going on? He's like, my hat blew off. We ran down here, but I'm blaming you because you wouldn't be able to talk to us if that hadn't happened, that run. Okay. Then he tagged me in a Facebook post about it, so I owe him a hat. I got to get him a hat, I guess, Miss Kay.
Yeah, I guess so. You've got Benji Seaborn, Jonathan Seaborn. They had another good finish at Neely. They had a win there a couple years ago. A new team in that top 9, really nice kids, Jake Bice and Briar Chambers. We got a That we got a great photo of them going out. I sent it to Kim Chambers yesterday. Uh, God, Kim Stryker. I've known her for Kim as Kim Chambers for a long time. She's Kim Stryker now. Uh, I sent it to her. I know their family. What a great kid, like super nice kid. And then Fisher and Ryan round out the top nine, and they got 593 points. Typically taking around that 900 points to get inside that top nine. A lot of work for these guys to do. Still left 2 tournaments left in the North Division, but it's going to be a shootout.
It is. I got bad news for a lot of folks, though. We go to the Coosa again next. For bad news for the folks that are trying to catch Mark and Tim and Hunter and Bryant. They're shallow water guys. I mean, gonna be interesting to see how it plays out. And then you throw a total curve though with Pickwick. So, and that one will come down to, we all know the dreaded boat number, maybe to get on the right school and that kind
Thanks
of
for
thing.
saying that. That's what Damien and Tyler's already told me. They know their boat like 218 at Pickwick. So yeah, I've already caught heck about that as well. So
Maybe we'll just
thanks.
go to Jack's and hang out for a little bit and wait for things to clear out on 218. I'm just gonna be honest.
I know, dude. I have caught it already. As soon as I told them how the boat numbers were going to flow, I tell everybody, I didn't just tell them, tell everybody how they're going to flow. Immediately, the text message started, how I
Oh,
screwed them up for the year and this, and this. That I'm not going to lie. Maybe I kind of poked the bear a little bit and screenshotted the points list and say, dude, are you going to end up in second again in the AOI points? I might have poked the bear just a little
you
bit.
might
That's what I
deserve
do.
some of the criticism you're getting then.
I
The
did. I did. I actually text some people today. I was going through the South Angler of the Year points. I'm not going to talk about the 4 people I text this morning, but I did point out to them that they are way down the list here and that they need to catch them at the Alabama River if they're going to get themselves in some kind of position to even make the championship.
another equalizer. Cooter's Pond
Exactly.
it's the same as Neely. I don't care what time of year you go there because river systems are dramatic to say the least, depending on current flow, depending on water level, all the things. It's never easy to crack the code there. Fantastic fishery, but will it take largemouth? Will it take spots? Will it take a mix? Will they make a long run? I mean, it's a wild, wild place. And it was actually my first time. I've never fished the Alabama River. And it was my first time even being at Cooter's Pond last year covering this event. I'd never been there. It's one of those historic places in my life. I feel like I know all about it, but I've never been there. Uh, Other than we went to Miller's for ABT
Yep.
100. The only time I've been on the Alabama River in an event. So looking forward to this one. But another one that will shake some things up.
We've seen 50 to 80 point swings at the Alabama River. If the Alabama Bass Trail was going to make a movie and it was going to be a dramatic series, it would be the Alabama Bass Trail at the Alabama River on Cooter's Pond. It can be 12-foot high, it can be 12-foot low, and it can happen within 24 hours to go from 12 feet high to 12 feet low. I mean, the Corps of Engineers gets us every time we're there. And we're expecting rain at the first part of the week. I know I had some anglers that called me last week that said, "Hey, we're supposed to have a tournament there, and it's like 38 feet high." And I said, "Well, they'll suck the bottom out of it, but I don't know if you're going to have a tournament." They ended up moving their tournament to Jordan, but I know they had a Bass Federation there this past weekend.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Yeah. The weekend that I went to Cancun, they were supposed to have a tournament there. This weekend they had a Bass Federation there. I didn't get a chance to look at the results, and that was part of my prep, but I just didn't get a chance to do that. So there was a big tournament there this past weekend, and I have no idea what it took. So boom on me, like I got an F as prep on that. But looking at the Alabama River. Chance of rain, 50 to 70% chance of rain Monday through Wednesday, excuse me. And then 83 to 85 Thursday through Saturday, no chance of rain right now in the forecast. So going to be a little balmy down there in the bottom of the Alabama River come Saturday. But it is one of those lakes. We've seen Brian Stifler, Wesley Gore, when they were fishing together back at the ramp at 10:30 eating pizza because it was a high water deal. They were going to bite within this window. They had no other spots to go to. They came back, won that tournament. I think it was a little over 18 pounds or almost 19 pounds that they took to win. But this is it's almost like a dang tidal fishery to me because the water fluctuates so much. But we've seen a Bassmaster All-Star event go there in those fat spotted bass. I want to say this because we were in the trailer early on Saturday morning and I mentioned shad spawn. And y'all kind of played it off like, no, it's not going to be a shad spawn. It's been too cool. We saw a little bit of that at Neely.
Yeah, I was surprised because I love fishing a shad spawn like so many others do. And I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't have looked for it. Had I been in that tournament, I probably would have gone looking for more spawning bass, you know, type things, which is ultimately how it was won. But there was definitely one going on. Now, it wasn't everywhere. It was very specific. But I do think a little bit further south, Alabama River, water temperature's probably going to be a little warmer down there. It's been hot. I do think you'll see one play this weekend. That first hour will be very important for a lot of teams.
So getting them out early in the morning and them getting, that first couple of flights is going to be important as far as shad spawn goes.
No doubt.
That is fast and furious. So we'll have to have you guys spread out pretty good on the water come Saturday morning. Alabama River, an 18-pound, 20-pound bag is going to be a heck of a stringer. We don't see huge weights as far as like 25 plus pounds. I don't think we'll see that. I think a 17, 18-pound bag is going to be really good there. Have you had time to give some thought to who your 5 are going to be?
I have.
Oh.
Yeah, believe it or not, I actually wrote them down. I actually
Wow.
And I'm going to start with John Pollard, Cameron Cox, because John won last year and he's won a bunch there. And if they do his deal, he starts talking about on stage with me, it stuck with me, this one rock slide that I fished with my uncle. Like he's just got and we had covered him on live before he made this big run to where he ended up catching them that day. And he's just got the knowledge on that place, years and years and years of experience and not having a great year so far. By John standards. By John standards, which are pretty high standards. So I think you see John do well fishing with Cameron Cox this year. So will he take it again? We'll see. I've got Mark and Tim in there. Historically, they don't do well there. They don't. But
I'm looking for my glasses.
They're fishing. You don't want to see me, trust me.
I know, I'm trying to look at my paperwork and I can't find my glasses.
So they're fishing well. I mean, Tim fished a tournament on Pickwick a couple weekends ago with Chad Hall. They caught 26 pounds of smallmouth while Mark was fishing another event the same day and caught them. And they're just everywhere right now. I feel like fishing as good as they fished in a long time. I actually talked to Tim last week, and I was headed to North Carolina and called him. He had sent me a text asking if I could call him, and we talked for a long time. And so scary dialed in. Just like when the conversation went, we were talking some business stuff. When we got to the fishing nitty gritty, it was like they're on another plane right now. And I feel like they have been for a long time. They're the winningest team maybe in Alabama history, not ABT necessarily, but like across the state, they win a lot. But he told me they fish a tournament almost every weekend of the entire year. That ain't easy to hang with. And you take their name out of it, there are so many other teams of ours that do the same thing too, right? They're out there every single weekend. So I got to put Mark and Tim. They're leading AOY in the north. They're in the top 10 in the south. I got to think it doesn't make sense to me that they haven't won an ABT there, because when you watch them and you know what they're about, it's the Alabama River. It's what they do. I mean, you're up shallow swimming a jig and flipping and square billing and chatterbait, all the things they love so much that we see them do a ton. The Alabama River sets up well. I know they made a crazy, crazy long run last year. No, I think they got burned by an area that they thought was going to play off. And, a lot of people ended up catching them really closer to home for the most part last year that did well. So we'll see. I got Zeke and Ethan. They are third in Angler of the Year race down there. They had a bad one at Neely Henry. They're for them, they were 11th last year here. Zeke and John were 11th here last year. So experience, I don't see them having two bad ones in a row. It's rare for them So we'll see. Rob Lee, Steve Winslet. If you look back at every ABT South that's ever been to the Alabama River, you do not have to scroll far to see those two names. Like
Yep.
most ABT South standings sheets, to be honest, you don't have to scroll far to see Rob Lee and Steve Winslet. And they're looking for redemption because Darian ruined their spot. Look,
I knew when you said Rob Lee and Steve Winslet, I knew the Darian scenario was coming in play.
Yeah, those guys, we all know they had a chance to blow that tournament out. Darian ruined it, and he should be fired on the spot for ruining it.
He is stacking up.
Demerits? He needs to go to detention? Yeah. Yeah. You're right. All
Moments. He is stacking up weird moments on the Alabama Bass Trail, from covering teams that are not on the Alabama Bass Trail to comments that just
throwing out the wrong sponsor names. He's like, you know what you should do? Have a nice cold insert beverage here that's not a sponsor. Run around in your boat that's not a sponsor boat. What are you talking about? He's lost his mind. I don't know. But he did get right on top of where Rob Lee and Steve Winslet were trying to, and it's well documented. Y'all can go back and watch it. He
maybe some of the funniest ABT Live ever covered.
Because Jason and I are not going to miss a fastball right down the middle. Very rare.
No.
But yeah, Rob Lee, Steve Winslet looking for some redemption. I hope Darian doesn't get anywhere near them. They tend to catch them when I get around them, so I'll try to cover them this week. Ryan Adamson and Ryan Lloyd, 10th in AOY. Again, tournaments over the years, you don't have to go far to find their name on the Alabama River or any other tournaments they fish, to be honest. But Alabama River, feel like they'll be locked in. And then my dark horse, and I want to apologize to these two young men right here, for calling them a dark horse. But they're in the 20s in the standings right now. They haven't had that big, just top 5 moment of the year like we're so used to seeing. But Noah and Cole Godwin, I feel like get it back on the tracks. Top 10 this one, maybe a win. I have no knowledge to back that up other than you just can't keep that team down. And they haven't had a win in a while. 2 in the same season. Haven't been right there in a minute. So would not surprise me at all.
The fact that you're saying that they have not had a great year this year and they're 21 in points.
I know.
That's not against you. That's like the expectations those kids have built in this series.
That's right. Yeah.
In every other series they fish.
That's like saying Chris and Kobe had a terrible year last year because they finished. There's 225 teams. If you finish in the top half of that, guess what? You beat a lot of people. If you finish in the top quarter of that, pat yourself on the back. If you make the championship against this crew, pat yourself on the back. It's not easy to do. But when you come out guns blazing and you win 2 in the same year, and then you're always around, and when we pull up on you, you're always catching them, you just get this level of expectation built for you where we're going to talk about you on podcasts. So
exactly. Well, I know one of the things Todd and Ethan said when I interviewed them earlier, he said, talking to Miss K on Monday is fun. I'm like, well, I don't know if it's talking to me or just being on the podcast. So, all right. I don't have a lot of the same people you have. So I think that's going to be interesting. My top 5 in, I'm going to say Tomlin and Foster that won Logan Martin because they said, looking at the schedule when it came out, Alabama River is the one they circled. Not even Eufaula, where they won last year, not Logan, where they won this year, but the Alabama River. They really were looking forward to that one. So I'm picking them in my top 5. I'm also going Mott and Hamilton. Justin Mott, Randall Hamilton, they're River Rats. They love that Alabama River. More or less, they love that Miller's Ferry area, but the Alabama River, I mean, they're River Rats. I think just the changing in weather conditions may give them a little bit of an edge because they're used to it. And along those same lines, Trey Wade, Bradley Parnell, again, Alabama River Rats down around that Miller's Ferry area. They had a good finish there. Trey fished with his dad last year as an alternate. I think maybe that's when Bradley's baby was born. I can't really remember the reason for that, but I know that he fished with Leon last year. And then I picked Adamson and Lloyd as well, but I picked them for AOY this year. Like in my mind with this scheduling, I really felt like they had a good AOY potential year going. And they're not, I mean, they're not far out of it. I'd have to go back and look. They're 10th right now in the points. They've been to that Bassmaster Team Championship for the last like 3 or 4 years with Alabama Bass Trail. Outside of their first year with us, they've been highly competitive every year. So they've got to win there. I just think that's just the team. Like for me for this year, like I've just coined them as my AOY team. Rutland and Carden. No pressure, no pressure. Rutland and Carden only because how many tournaments has Chris Rutland fished on the Alabama River? And it was almost like Lake Martin. How many has he fished there that he doesn't have the win already? So Rutland and Carden is my 5th team that I have in my top 5. And my dark horse is a team that I don't know that I've ever chosen them as my dark horse. Stevens and Aldridge, Gabe Aldridge, Terry Stevens. Gabe's got a win on the Alabama River with the Alabama Bass Trail before. I don't think it was an April win. I'd have to go back and look. He was fishing with Wes at the time. They're my dark horse. They've had a fairly decent season with us. They're in 6th right now. But I really think this Alabama River, Lake Eufaula, I mean, Terry fishes Seminole all the time. He had a 29-pound bag with us one time on Eufaula. These two back to back, I feel really good about their potential these next 2 tournaments. So they're my dark horse. But a lot of different names than you had, which I like. I like the fact that we didn't have the same people. This will be one
in the South. I feel like we always do because I feel like you have insider information on so many things. I call bull on that, but and I feel like I say a lot of the same names. But I'm learning though.
Yeah, but the ones you picked out are not rough.
I mean, last year to win. I did.
You did pitch him. You did pick him to win. And he's got a ton of information. And I usually either choose him for the story or choose him to come on for the podcast. What I've learned, and why we don't have anglers come on now for like previewing stuff, and we will occasionally, they're going to lie. They're not going to tell us the truth. They're not going to go, hey, I'm on a pink floating worm on docks at Neely Henry, and da-da-da-da. They're not going to say that a week before the tournament. They're just not. So, and things do change. So I figured out that one, they're not going to tell us the truth. And, so I just don't, I'll let them tell the story to Jason, but I'm not going to let them tell the story here and make me look stupid and think, oh, we've got the inside information. I want to talk about the points because we've got a new leader in the South, and Shane Thompson and Brent Shriver. I like those guys. They are super, super nice people. Love them. See them all the time when we're at the tournament. John Brown, Trey Sorrells sitting in 2nd in the points. Zeke Gossett, Ethan King in 3rd. Joey Adderhold, Fat Daddy Tim Hatcher sitting in 4th. They are having a year. Like they're right there. They're having a solid year. Michael Cox, Colt Boyette in 5th. Terry Stevens, Gabe Aldridge 6th. The Session brothers in 7th. Chris Landers, Brad Pitts. They've got to win at the Alabama River. They're sitting in 8th place. And then Mark and Tim, we talked about them leading in the North. They are literally like, I'm gonna have to refer to my notes, but like they're literally just 37 points out of the lead in the South. I don't really know what the probable is for them to win North and South Angler of the Year.
That all just blew my mind.
Like,
honestly. If you won overall Angler of the Year because you won both divisions, that's insane.
Is that not just complete insanity?
That's great.
And we remarked, traditionally, the Alabama River's not been their best. They've had a 79th finish there last year, 49th in 2023. I couldn't find their finish in 2022, and I even had my glasses on. And they could have finished 3rd, and I didn't see it. But 2021, they had a 13th place. In 2020, they had a 23rd place. In order to get to that 1,045, which is the 3-year average of what it's taken to win the Alabama River, they're going to have to stick around 25th or better place to get to that. I'm not saying that's what it'll take this year, but that's on the average of the last 3 years, 1,045 to win Angler of the Year in each division. So In the north,
Listen,
that's what they're going to have to do.
anybody, I can't. That's not what we do here. But I am pulling for that story. That's pretty awesome. If you got two gentlemen that can win AOI in both divisions with this diverse schedule and all, that would just be maybe build a statue of them in Birmingham or something. I don't know. Like that's just like that's so crazy to think about. It's early. It's early. It's too early
It's
to
early.
talk about. But still, we're 3 events wrapped in the north, and they're leading. We'll be 3 events wrapped. Like this is kind of where things start to take shape as far as what we're going to talk about for the next 2 tournaments, points wise. You know it, and I know
Mhm.
it. First event, it's tournament standings. Okay, whatever. Going into, but when you get the second one, you get the third one behind you. That's when we're starting to take this turn. So it really starts getting more serious now.
Do you think that that's even crossed their mind?
No,
I,
no.
I haven't I haven't said one thing to them, to be honest with you. I was looking through these things today and trying to do as much prep as I can on this stuff, and I'm sitting here going
I
37
don't
points
think so.
behind.
Knowing those guys, they're so intense, but they also are just out there, they're having fun out there. And I just think they just go, all right, what's up next? You eat an elephant by taking one bite at a time. And I think they fish so many tournaments, you can't start looking at, oh gosh, how are we going to catch them at Fall in May or how are we going to catch them at Lay in June? I think it's like, all right, next up,
Right.
next up. Okay, well, we got Alabama River next. Let's, something interesting that Tim told me last week. And he said that they've just fished together for so long and they practice out 2 separate Phoenixes. They run around 2 separate boats. And he said that we don't even talk to each other about where we go in practice. And he said a lot of times we end up in the same areas because we both like the same areas. He said, but I know what Mark does, so I don't even attempt it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just fish the way I fish, and then we get together on Saturday and we just make it happen. I'm like, y'all don't talk. He goes, no, we don't really talk in practice about, hey, you go here, I go here. He's like, we just go do what each of us does individually. And then we put a game plan together Friday night and we roll out Saturday morning with that plan. I just thought that was so interesting. You watch those teams, how they work together, that just fish together so daggum much, man. And I saw it, Logan, Tim lives on Logan.
Mm-hmm.
You see Mark on the back deck, Tim running the trolling motor. They're in Tim's boat. They're doing Tim's stuff, right? Go to Neely, where Mark's got a ton of wins there. You got Tim on the back deck there in Mark's Phoenix, Mark running the trolling motor. It is so much fun watching how the teams that are, that have been historically the most successful in a lot of team tournaments, how they operate together is
Mm-hmm.
always cool. Like there's no ego involved. It's just this ebb and flow. I'll get the net for you. Hey, buddy, I'm gonna go back here and I'm gonna take care of the fish. You need a snack? Like whoever's got the hand, like they do. And we see it with so many teams in the ABT. It's one of my favorite things about getting to cover them is these teams that you hear about all the time. They get on these roles, and when you watch them and how they work together. Chapel and Davis last year when they won Logan, I'll never forget that day. And just watching those guys work together, and it's really cool. Really cool to see.
And I say that about Damien and Tyler too. And I give Damien a lot of heck,
Sure,
a lot of heck. But he
deserves it.
deserves a lot of heck too. But you watch them, and I think about back when we were at Weiss and they were bed fishing there, and then watching them at Smith a couple years ago. They have that same thing. They're just a little more fly under the radar. Like they want to win every tournament. They're just that competitive. But I think they like being in the catbird seat where they are right now. Like I think they kind of like that position, but it's going to be real interesting going into Weiss. I think that's going to set up an Angler of the Year race for the North that's just going to be stupid at Pickwick. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Weiss to me is going to set the stage for Pickwick, and the time between May 10th and June 14th, there's going to be some talking. I have a feeling. I'm just going to have to butt out. I'm going to have to block that group. Totally. I want to talk about another team that you and I highlighted at the first of the season, and rightfully so. Connor and Caleb Miller, 16 points out of 9th place right now. They're in 17th place in the AOI. They finished 12th last year. How you feeling about our call earlier in the year with those guys making that top 9 again?
They're just machines. They fish so much. They fit again, another one of those teams, even though they're a really young team. They're brothers. They fish well together. You watch them. I mean, Darian covered them, I guess, at Logan, and he said, man, it is so crazy that they just don't miss. They're
Mhm.
doing their scoping deal, and he's like, they don't even talk, and they're just casting at the fish, both at the same fish. One's throwing one thing, one's throwing the other. He said, "Man, they just have this deal." And I watched them at Eufaula last year. Was just so impressed with how they handled themselves. But no, I'm not surprised at all. Again, these river fisheries can be tough. They do like to scope, but they can catch them other ways too. So I
Yeah.
expect them to have a good one down there at Cooter's Pond.
They had a 22nd place finish there last year, back to back 22nd places to end the year, get them into that top 12. I just got to believe that being brothers and being as close as they are in age and being with each other so much on the water, there's just got to be some of that, almost like that twinning, just almost like being twins and having that just knowledge of each other. I like to update because we did call it at the first of the year. We thought they would back it up and be back inside. They were 12th last year. We had a couple teams fall out of the top 9 that couldn't go to that tournament in Kentucky. Those guys went up there, caught one fish day 1, came back, missed day 2 because they canceled it. Day 3 came back with 17 pounds, put them right there. I think finished 44th place out of 200 something boats. So I like their determination. I like their commitment. So no doubt they'll put in their time this week for the Alabama River. So anybody else stand out to you that we need to make sure has a camera or anything like that other than Darian? We may
CJ
need
Knight,
to
Goggins.
Dude, seriously, I don't even know if you can see that with that.
Yeah.
That's right there. And I got to thinking, can I really knock Rutland out of my top 5 because of his experience? But I had Knight and Goggins there too. They haven't had their Angler of the Year quality season, but we started at Martin, so it's my fault. Because they said anytime Martin starts I'm giving Anthony that because he says anytime Martin starts the season, they don't have their best season. So it's my fault.
He was deathly sick. Goggins was
yes, I forgot about that.
On at the meeting, he's like, "Hey, stay away."
Yes, I forgot about that. Forgot about that.
He got off to a weird start for them, but I think the next 3 coming up, Alabama River, where they called them last year, Eufaula, where they always catch them. And Rapid at Lay Lake, where he always catches them.
Yeah, and he has the win there. So yeah.
So, I think we see them kind of pull out of whatever ditch it is that they're in right now. But they're down there in the points. I mean, by their standards, it's so hard though, and I need people to understand. Angler of the Year. That's why we don't have a bunch of 5-time winners. The Angler of the Year is so hard to win in any tournament. I don't care if it's your 20 boat bass club. You got to be the most consistent for every event. So you multiply that by 225 of the best teams in the state and abroad from all over the Southeast and some from up north, mixing it up all the time. It's hard to go back. We're seeing the same thing with Bussy and Webb. Never had a finish below 18th last year in the north, and just tried. They had a good one this past weekend. Neely Henry, a decent finish there, and that's what they whispered in my ear walking by. They're like, "We finally got this truck out of the ditch a little bit," because it's just not in automatic for them.
Right.
But so many factors come into play in that.
And they said in their Angler of the Year interview that we did with them, they really liked the way the schedule set up this year. They were excited about the 2025 schedule, and it hasn't worked out for them. So it happens, and that's why you said we haven't had 5-time Angler of the Year winners, because it is so hard to adjust and back it up. I mean, there's a lot of good anglers, and we have 35 to 40 new teams every year, and they brought it. I mean, we saw Beaty and McDonald come in this year, second time on the Alabama Bass Trail, got their win. So it's a lot of good fishermen. So you got to bring your A game every tournament in order to take home that Angler of the Year. Well, I know that you're probably exhausted about talking about bass fishing, so I need you to rest up from now till Saturday.
I'm gonna attempt to do that. Rest is not in my vocabulary, as you know me a long time. This is another wide open week. It's all right.
It is. I mean, we only got a couple.
I think I got a week off coming up.
Yeah, we got a couple more to do, and then we'll get to that end of June timeframe. Hey, we do nothing June, July, August, September, do we? At least that's what I'm told. That I don't have to work during those months. I don't have to work during those months. All right, guys and ladies, there is Mr. Luke Duncan, the official voice of the Alabama Bass Trail, MPFL, Low Budget Live, all the things. Thank you for joining me today, buddy.
Thank you for having me, as always.
All right, guys, we'll be back on the third segment of the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Stay tuned.
It's the moment when everything is on the line and precision, power, and control make all the difference. A moment over 20 years in the making, anchored on loyalty, trust, and support that goes beyond all expectations. A relentless pursuit of perfection. All born from a revolutionary idea to help you rule the water. Power Pole.
Welcome back to the third and final segment of today's podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. And I know it's a long one, but I didn't have one last week, and I had a lot of things we wanted to cover. And anytime you get Luke on, it can just go for hours and hours and hours. We have a lot to talk about. Before we get started and all the dates that are coming up and all those things, I do want to send out our thoughts, prayers, and to Mr. Stephen Wells. As most of you know, on April the 11th, Pam Martin Wells lost her battle to cancer. Was on the texting back and forth with Stephen during the process. And one thing about it is their love for each other and their love for fishing was transcended lots of generations. Pam was all about inspiring young women as well as young men to pursue their passions in the bass fishing world. She was a trailblazer in our industry. I think Davey Hyatt said it the best: when you can say that you've had over 20 years in this industry, and as Pam, I think, was over 30 years in this industry, and no one can say anything bad about you, then you know that you've had a long, successful career. I remember the day that I saw her name come across the registration and how excited I was that one of only two women to ever fish the Bassmaster Classic was actually fishing our trail. And I remember watching Pam cross the stage at the Bassmaster Classic in 2010 and remembering to myself that I always wanted to remember that. And I remember when Kim Bay Moore did it, I think it was in Greenville maybe. I remembered that. And I remembered when she signed up for the Alabama Bass Trail, where I was when she crossed the Bassmaster Classic stage, and how excited I was that she was fishing the Alabama Bass Trail, and how she always had time to talk, whether she was launching her boat or they were, taking out for the day. I remember that she always had time, and she was very complimentary of our trail and our team. And I know she went on to do really good work at Emmanuel University, where she was a coach there. And seeing those young men stand up for her at her funeral was amazing. And I just want to say that she left an impression on a lot of us. And where in an industry where there's not a ton of women in decision-making roles, in leadership roles, she truly made me believe that it was possible to do that. And a lot of long talks with her throughout my career were very special to me, and I'll always keep the memories of those very close to me. So I remember our friendship, and more importantly, the industry person that she has made me. So Pam, may you rest in peace and know that you are gone, but certainly will never be forgotten. We will miss you. All right. May the 2nd, 10 a.m., that is when the 2026 Alabama Bass Trail schedule will be released for the North and South and the championship. So make sure that you mark your calendar for that, 10 a.m., May the 2nd. New team registration will take place on August the 15th at 5:30 a.m. as normal. Everyone else has priority registration August 1st through the 14th, and then August 15th at 5:30 a.m. New teams can register. We'll talk more about that as we get closer. We'll start about that middle part of July, giving all the specifics that you'll need on social media and throughout the podcast. We'll be talking a lot more about that. June 1st is the ABT 100 registration will open for 2026. June 1st through the 10th is priority registration for everyone who fished this year. And then June 11th at 5:30 a.m. will open registration for the next season for new teams. June the 11th at 5:30 a.m. Just reminder of the schedule, January the 17th, Smith Lake out of the Coleman side. First time we've gone out of the Coleman side. June 6th, Neely Henry Lake there at Coosa Landing, where we were this past weekend. And then November the 7th at Lake Jordan out of Wetumpka. So looking forward to that schedule. Again, new teams can register June the 11th at 5:30 a.m. I do want to thank Todd Beaty and Ethan Mcdonald and Mr. Luke Duncan for joining me on today's podcast. Again, I know it ran a little long today, but we had a lot to cover, and I'm making up for not being here last week. I do hope you will subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcasting app. Please send us any comments or questions you would like for us to ask or pose to our anglers or our guest, or any guests that you might want us to have on. We'll be happy to try to make those things happen. I want to remind you this week, more than any other, after what we endured last week, is to make sure that you hug your loved ones, hug your mom and them, and take care of those fur babies, whether they be little goats or doggies or cats or whatever they may be. You are the most important person in their life. So please make sure that you slip them a little extra treat and take care of them. Until next week, we will see you down at the Alabama River. 5 hours of live coverage will start around 6 a.m., run to 11. We expect an early morning blast off around 6 a.m. You can see it all on Alabama Bass Trail Facebook, also on the alabamabasstrail.org website, and on YouTube at Alabama Bass Trail TV, starting at 6 a.m. on Saturday morning. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's great to be back on the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. To learn more about the Alabama Bass Trail, make sure and visit alabamabasstrail.org.